So very good morning, everybody. Today is the second day of the last season of presentations. These presentations are given by semester 4 students. And today in this morning slot, semester 4 students are going to make presentations on African literature. Let us see the topics on which we will have presentations today. Okay, so we will have Hina making presentation on a study of Yoruba. Yoruba culture involves Soyinka's A Dance of the Forest, followed by Hetal's presentation on satirical depths. A study of Gabriel Okara's poem, You Laughed and Laughed and Laughed. Gopi's presentation will be on Wole Soyinka's dystopian utopian vision in A Dance of the Forest. Ghanshyam will make it on Ngugi Thiong'o's portrayal of the proletarianization of the Kenyan masses. Gayatri on the construction of black women in literature with special reference to the joys of motherhood. Drashti on feminist analysis, marginalized women in Ngugi Thiong'o's Petals of Blood. Bhavyata on eco-critical perspectives in Soyinka's A Dance of the Forest. It is forest or forests? Yeah, so check that spelling. And at a couple of places you will have to change. Timestamp also. Because from there I will copy in the description. So if there is any mistakes or errors in your title, see that on the page of timestamp also you are editing it, from where it will be copied and put on the YouTube descriptions. Avni on the burden of motherhood, examining parenthood in Buchi Amechita's novel, The Joys of Motherhood. Anjali on women's victimization in Buchi Amechita's The Joys of Motherhood. And finally, Arti's presentation on mother's intricacy in Buchi Amechita's The Joys of Motherhood. Okay, so let us start with the first one. Hina, you can start with your presentation.
Hello everyone, myself Hina Parmar, and today the second day of presentation season 4. I'm going to deal with the topic a study of Yoruba culture in also Inca's play A Dance of the Forest. These are my academic information. Some points which I am going to deal in my presentation about also Inca introduction of the play Dance of the Forest, the origin of Yorubas, a study of Yoruba culture in also Inca's Dance of the Forest, Yoruba mask as a symbol, also Inca and his Yoruba worldview, and conclusion and then resource. Let us start with the introduction of Wole Soyinka. Wole Soyinka was the Nobel Prize, won the Nobel Prize in Literature in 1986. He is the best known as the playwright. Alongside his literary career, he has also worked as an actor and in theatres in Nigeria and Great Britain. His works also include poetry, novels, and essays. Soyinka writes in English, but his works are rooted in his native Nigerian and Yoruba culture, with its legends, tales, and traditions. His writing also includes influence from Western traditions, from classical tragedies to modern drama. Soyinka has published about 20 works, drama, novels, and poetry. As dramatist, Soyinka based his writing on the mythology of his own tribe, the Yoruba with Ogun. Ogun is the god of iron and war. At the center, he wrote his first plays during his time in London, The Web Develops and The Lie and the Jewel. Uh, Introduction of the play A Dance of the Forest. Dance of the Forest is a play which is published in 1963. Also in A Dance of the Forest represents the future of humanity. The play was written to commemorate Nigeria's attainment of political independence in 1960. However, it was turned down by the ceremonies committee because it was found to be too critical of the African past and too pessimistic about the future to fit properly into the program of the independence celebrations. A Dance of the Forest is an allegory of cosmic dimensions. The symbolic conversing of the past, the present, and the future has been conceived as a pattern highly suggestive of the cosmic dance, the dance of creation as well as disruption among the deities against the background of the forest, rhythm of life, cyclic in operation. First, we have to know about the origin of Yorubas. Uh, in modern sub-Sahara Africa, the Yorubas of Nigeria have been described as one of the largest ethnic groups. Many Yorubas are also indigenous of Venice Republic and Togo. They have been described as the most outstanding people of Black Africa. With respect to their myths, in simple terms, the Yoruba can easily be described or identified as people of the culture. The origin of the Yorubas and of their culture remains one of the most contested in Africa. In the 21st century, there are two major explanations that are relied upon to explain the origin of Yorubas. First, first myth is that the Oduduwa creation myth, which teaches the Olomare sent Oduduwa from heaven to create the earth and all that is within, including humans. And second myth is that the migration theory, which teaches that the Yoruba ancestor Oduduwa origins from some regions of Near East or the Middle East. The most comprehensive and most honored chronicle on Yoruba history is documented by the writer Samuel Johnson. Samuel Johnson believed that the Yoruba culture and those of the ancient Egyptians are similar, hence the Yorubas originate in Egypt. In this presentation, I'm going to explore the question is how does Soyinka utilize Yoruba cultural elements in dance of the forest? Also, in which way Wole Soyinka describe or represent Yoruba culture and its elements in his play, A Dance of the Forest. A study of Yoruba culture in Wole Soyinka's A Dance of the Forest. The play A Dance of the Forest, Yoruba culture is represented as a central aspect. In this play, there is many elements which represent Yoruba culture. The first element is the characters and deities. There is many characters and deities and spirits which were inspired from Yoruba culture. For an example, forest head is the one of the examples example of that character. And there is many rituals and dances which also inspired from Yoruba culture. The place has a dance for a welcome where many spirits were invited to dance and music. And there is a setting which is also based on Yoruba culture. The play Dance of the Forest is set in the jungle, and there the play explores the leadership and its corruption and many other aspects. In the setting of West Africa spiritualism, a dance of the forest depicted a complicated interplay between gods, mortals, and the dead with the ultimate goal of experiencing one's own self-discovery. The Yoruba's notion of time is flexible and non-linear, which is reflected in the way that culture is portrayed in drama. Gods, mortals, ancestors, and spirits are all represented in the plays. Soyinka depicts as figures three important deities who are commonly regarded as having extraordinary powers. Ogun, Ishoro, and Forest, those three characters are in power position in this play. Soyinka illustrates a disagreement between the gods, which finally influence the life and destinies of mankind through his choice of gods. In the Yoruba tradition, he is received as a god of purity and morality. The Yoruba trickster god was known as Ishuro. He is the figure who symbolizes the readiness of life, making anxious because of his lack of respect for authority. Soyinka abused ancestors from ancient time to rejuvenate via ceremonial ancestor worship. Furthermore, the play's final dances focuses on the fight to possess the unborn child of the deceased lady. The performance becomes alive with creatures from many levels of existence and naturals as Osita, Okagu, actors in culture and identity in African and Caribbean theatre. For Africans, there is no such thing as final completed, a permanent side of existence. The living die and become ancestors, the unborn are born to become the living, and the ancestor might return to being unborn. He starts and finishes outside of the forest in chronological sequence, but most of the action takes place within the forest over the length of one night. In the metaphysical time of the dream, which moves freely between past, present, and future. Soyinka uses symbols of God and spirit, myths and rituals, song and dancing, and mind as part of the feast in some of his works. He uses Yoruba culture because the songs and tonal rhythms are the tune with the drums and the dancing, and all three things are part of the ritual itself. So he can't separate them. So this way, the whole Soyinka represent Yoruba culture in this play because he is rooted in that culture, and he also takes some of the aspect of Yoruba culture to to satirize in political aspects. Thus, he owes a lot of traditional culture which helped shape the country's reputation as good place to live. Yoruba culture represented in the play therefore flexibly belong to categories. First, the presentation of characters from all realm of existence. God, mortals, ancestor, and spirits. The second flexible non-linear timeline that corresponds to the Yoruba's corrupt concept of time. In drama, Soyinka present its characters three major deities widely worshipped by people for their special powers. Forest Head, Ogun, and Ishuru. The choice is significant here because Soyinka show a conflict of interest between the gods and eventually affected the lives and destinies of humans. Ogun is the god of war and Yoruba Petals. But he is also the god of iron. Uh, Therefore, he is a secret to warriors, hunted blacksmiths, drivers, railroad workers, and artists. In this play, Yoruba mask represent as a symbol. The role of the Yoruba mask or sculpture is not only to create a link between existence. There are masks in addition to cult or secret masks that perform different functions. In his work, Soyinka uses masks as a multi-phase symbol. According to L. Markford, the mask has the dual effect of this or transforming the weather and the ambivalence of serving good and evil acts. In the dance of the forest, during the dance welcome, intended to bring human criminals to justice. Forest Head, who is the supreme deity, masquerades as the failing clerk for the court to carry out his design for letting the human character judge themselves. Similarly, Ishuro and Eroni masquerade as questioner and the figure in red, respectively. Those masks make it possible for them to play their desired roles of judge and foe. Furthermore, Soyinka uses another sculpture totem to underline the difference between traditional bound masks and masks of hypocrisy and deception. Here, Wole Soyinka's another work where he also represents Yoruba culture. In this play, he also represents some of the Yoruba culture's elements, such as dance, song, mime, and many other things. And this play portrays a conflict between traditional and modernism. Uh, this play is very simple in its structure and it is a poetic drama or a musical play. It shows the familiarity of Soyinka with the various aspects of African culture and the influence of the modern world on the African mind. And here, Soyinka gives an account of the origins of the play in an interview in that mentions about the custom and culture of Yoruba. To conclude, among new Commonwealth literatures, African literature stands out for its novelty. Inspiration comes from Yoruba culture, which Soyinka mixes with other African ideas. About 20% of Nigerians are Yoruba. Middle Eastern origins, they migrated to Europe in the Middle Ages. Prior to the arrival of Christianity and Islam, the Yoruba practices their own religions. Yoruba metaphysics says a person can be in one of three stages, and moving between them required passing through a gate. During Egangan ritual, people physically resurrender their ancestors. In the play Dance of the Forest, the character Ogun is a war deity who is also a creator and destroyer, affecting the woodland Vedas lives was a goal for all three gods. Souls exist in objects and natural events. Soyinka said additional spirit to deities. Changing time is important in Yoruba culture. Dance of the forest captivated many. It is the traditional culture that shaped Soyinka's reputation as well as a good writer. These are my references. Uh, Now I'm open for questions. Anyone have any question?
Hina, how does the setting of the play, A Dance of the Forest, reflects Yoruba culture?
In the play Dance of the Forest, there were many aspects which is represented Yoruba culture, such as characters, their dance rituals, their the, the setting also included. The setting of the forest is important part of this play because this setting represent Yoruba culture. In Yoruba culture, jungle is the place where the tribe live, and it is and nature is very close to them. And in the play, the welcome dance is presented by spirits in the jungle, and in this setting of the jungle, there were many things happen, such as the corruption of leadership and other many things.
Hina, what specific Yoruba rituals, ceremonies, or cultural practices are referenced in the play of A Dance of the Forest?
There were many. There were. In the play, the rituals of dance and music have music played a important role, and through the in the ritual of dance, there the spirits were invited, and the forest had test the humans as well as spirits. In the play, in the play, there were there were rituals of the music. Also, aspect of music is also played a important role. Thank you.
Try to be brief. Don't make very long presentations. Yesterday it was 7:30 evening by the time we completed. See that the time is 8 minutes. Try to be as per the time. Okay, fine.
Hello everyone. On the very second day of presentation season, semester 4, my today's topic in the paper of African literature is Satirical Depths, a study of Gabriel Okara's poem, You Laughed and Laughed and Laughed. These are my academic details and this is the table of contents. Beginning with the introduction of Gabriel Okara, the Nigerian-born English language poet considered an African literary giant. He was born on April 24, 1922 in the present-day state of Nigeria. He went on to study journalism at Northwestern University in 1949 before discovering his talent for poetry in 1953. When he won an award at the Nigerian Festival of Arts for his poem, The Call of the River Nun. Gabriel Okara, also known as the first English language African writer and the famous writer, is regarded as the first modernist poet of Anglophone Africa. So that is how before studying about journalism, Gabriel Okara was not aware about his talent of writing poetry, but after he received the award at Nigerian Festival for his famous poem, The Call of the River Nun. Major African writers started writing their thoughts, which resulted into the rise of negritude movements in Africa. And as I have already mentioned about the African poet Gabriel Okara, and in further slides I will explore his poem, You Laughed and Laughed and Laughed. Gabriel Okara was also known as the Nigerian negritude. Gabriel Okara collected poems includes the poet's earliest lyric works along with poems written in response to Nigeria's warriors, literary tributes and elegies to fellow poets, activists and loved ones long dead, and recent dramatic and narrative poems. The introduction by Brenda Mary Osby contextualizes Okara's work in the history of Nigerian, African, as well as English language literatures. And in that book, Gabriel Okara collected poems. Brenda Mary Osby mentioned that it is at once a treasure for those long in search of a single authoritative edition and a revelation and timely introduction for readers new to the work of one of Africa's most revered poets. Gabriel Okara's poetry depicts the suppressed people are trying to retrieve the laws. So that is how Gabriel Okara trying to depict the sufferings of black people in his poems. About the poem, as we know that the poem is written by Gabriel Okara, which are again a callback to Africa and African landscapes doing the rounds with their populace, mannerism, language, way of life, culture, tradition, society, dance, rhythm, and musical beats. The words, here we might arise the question in our mind that why the title is like You Laughed and Laughed and Laughed. But after reading the poem, we came to know that by using the particular word laughed, it adds the beauty of the poem and as because outplays the things of which racism and racial discrimination. So that is how we can consider that racism is one of the major themes in this particular poem. The poem is obviously a satire on Western people who consider themselves as superior and African as inferior. White people are comparing the sound of black people's songs of emotions or pains with misfiring of car because they used to criticize the voice of black people as harsh and annoying. So white people think that the voice of African people are very harsh or annoying, and that is why Gabriel Okara uses the word like misfiring of car. Gabriel Okara satirizes white people they reflect their point of views as they are having every kind of understanding, like universal understanding towards everything. So in this poem, the way white people are showing the attitude, showing their attitude towards black people, as well as the way they are mocking African or black people, it clearly shows that how they are considered themselves as superior and African as inferior, and they white people are very reflecting their own point of view, and they are like they know that they are having every kind of understanding about the world. So that is how, from this particular point, Gabriel Okara also satirizes the white people. In one of the articles in my mission issue titled Gabriel Okara, a poet and his seasons, mentioned that this poem is seemed appropriately straightforward, proud without arrogance, hurting without showing it, and blunt without rudeness. It is a poem to make the mind speak to the heart. When we read Gabriel Okara, however, the smile reappeared. For though Okara's poetry too was protest poetry, the poetry of frustration and even valuable. So in this present poem also we can see that how Okara shows the sufferings, pain and emotional turmoil of the black people. These are the two questions which can be raised from this particular presentation, that to what extent does Okara employ satire to critique white people, and what deeper insights can be gleaned from analyzing individual stanzas or lines within the poem. So, how we can explore the satirical depth through the stanzas of the poem? By using the word laugh, denoting the white who dominated the native for their abnormal actions. As an African poet, Gabriel Okara brought this concept in his poem and named it so. The poem mainly focuses on the theme of racism faced by the people in Africa. White people did not understand the feelings and sufferings of black people. So here we can understand that how Gabriel Okara satirizes the attitudes of white people by using the stanzas and lines. In this poem, Okara stands tall against the foolishness of the colonialist who laughs at his dance and his inside. In the first two stanzas, the speaker addresses an European colonialist that laughs at African way of life. In the very first stanza, it shows that in your ears, my song is mortar and misfiring, stopping with a choking cough, and you laughed and laughed and laughed. So this is the very first stanza from the poem, and I also mentioned earlier that white people consider the voice of black people as harsh and annoying, and that is why they enter with their car and satirizes and mocking the black people. In the second stanza, in your eyes, my antenatal walk was inhuman, passing your omnivorous understanding, and you laughed and laughed and laughed. In this particular stanza of the poem, the phrases like the antenatal walk and omnivorous understanding are deployed as vehicles for an attack on two of the major pillars of Eurocentrism, racism and hegemony. So here, the two words which we can see, that antenatal walk means a walk which we can see by the women are pregnant. So walk of a pregnant woman, and that is how the white people are criticizing the African. That is so that is how they mocked black people. Then in the further stanza, the entire poem is divided into 9 stanzas that I forgot to mention. But when we see the first 7 stanza, there is a description about how white people satirizes and showing their attitude towards black people. But in the last 2 stanzas, Gabriel Okara says that now it is my turn to laugh, but my laughter is not ice block laughter, for I know not cars, no, not ice blocks. By using Gabriel Okara says that the colonialist laughter is not only icy, it is also by default comparable to mechanical products of European industrialism. And in the final stanza of the poem, the mocking colonialist is awakened to the value of the African cultural heritage that he mocks and forced to ask the most important question, why? To which he receives an answer that bespeaks of the poet's unwavering commitment to his indigenous heritage. So here, the last stanza is, you can read, and Gabriel Okara's position is that in the matter of the culture, so in most of the poetry of Gabriel Okara, he always depicts that the conflict between two cultures. In the piano and the drums, we can see the similar theme, and in this poem we can also see the similar theme. Of the colonizer and colonized, we are left with no choice one way or the other, but the inevitability of reconciliation between both, the absolute inevitability of the acceptance of a post-colonial synthesis. Conclusion. This poem explores many things through its satirical lens. It delves into the complexities of human nature. Okara skillfully uses language as well as imagery to invite readers to confront the truth, as we all need to examine ourselves as well as society with a critical eye. And it makes us to think about that how we act and believe. So that is how in this poem, Gabriel Okara uses many languages and imagery to satirize the white people and their attitude towards black people. At first glance, this poem is very difficult because Okara used many very tough language or hard words to analyze or interpret, but that is how we can see that his anger became very much that he uses that satirical depths on a very great level to convey his message towards the readers. And here are my references that I have taken, and now I am open for questions.
Hetal, how does Okara employs Okara's poem employs language and imagery to create satire?
Okay. So as I already mentioned that Gabriel Okara uses the language as well as imagery to create satire on a very great level in this particular poem. But when we read all the stanzas at a very close reading, we came to know that the depiction of Western culture and African culture are there in the poetry of Okara. And when we read many of his poems, we came to know that it is always about the cultural conflicts in his poem. That in this particular poem, the African culture is depicted as that white people are coming in their cars, and that is how they are showing their attitude towards the black people, and also mocking to black people on a very great level. So that is how Gabriel Okara uses language as well as imagery to convey his message towards the readers.
Hetal, my question is, how does Gabriel Okara's poetry laugh, and laugh depicts instances of racial prejudice, discrimination, and how do those representations resonate with contemporary discussions?
Okay. Yes, definitely this poem depicts the instances of racial prejudices, racial discriminations, the theme of racism. Everything is here in this poem and very well depicted by Gabriel Okara. And if we can see in today's time, we can see that, not in India, but majorly that we are talking about African literature. So in many parts of Africa, we can still see and understand that there are still prevailing about the racial prejudice, discriminations, and that is how the main work of African writers is to show and portray that racial discrimination and prejudice are still prevailing in our society. Thank you.
Hello everyone, I'm Gopi Dervaliya, and on the second day of semester 4's presentation on the African literature, which my topic is Wole Soyinka's dystopian and utopian vision in A Dance of the Forest. These are my personal information. In my presentation, I'm dealing with these topics. So about the author Wole Soyinka. So as Hina mentioned that Wole Soyinka was a Nigerian writer and also Nigerian. He is also Nigerian playwright and activist, and who won the Nobel Prize for Literature in 1986. When he come back to Nigeria after his studies, then he wrote his most famous play, A Dance of the Forest, which was produced in 1960 and published in 1963. His other notable plays like Madman and Specialist, Death and the King's Horseman, The Beautification of Area Boy. And here are his Wole Soyinka also wrote some novels like The Interpreter Season of Enemy, Chronicles from the Land of the Happiest People on Earth. And Wole Soyinka was the first Black African to be awarded the Nobel Prize for Literature. So first, what is dystopia? So in simple word, that dystopia is often linked with dystopian literature and represent a failed utopia. It signifies that extreme control, slavery, inequality, and also the imprisonment. The word dystopia, the original spelling of dystopia, first appeared in Lewis Henry Young's Utopia or Apollo's Golden Days in 1747. This indicates three main interrelated forms of the concept. First is the political dystopia, second is the environmental dystopia, and third is the technological dystopia. Few models pertinent to the modern collectivist political dystopia merit mentioned are that militarized socialist, slavery, dystopian prisons, and diseased species. Here are some dystopian works like George Orwell's 1984, Aldous Huxley's The Brave New World, and Margaret Atwood's The Handmaid's Tale. These are the main characteristics of dystopian. An oppressive or authoritarian government, laws of individual freedom, dehumanized population, restricted or distorted language, a bleak and oppressive atmosphere, and a critique of contemporary society. So then, what is utopia? So the word utopia is first used in 1516 from by Sir Thomas More in his book Utopia. This utopia describes an ideal society where everything is perfect. in politics, economics, culture, and social structure. In a utopian society, there is harmony, equality, and justice for all. Layman towards Sargent argues that the nature of a utopia is inherently contradictory because societies are not homogeneous and have desires which conflict and therefore cannot simultaneously be satisfied. And quote that there are socialist, capitalist, monarchical, democratic, anarchist, ecological, feminist, patriarchal, egalitarian, hierarchical, racist, left-wing, right-wing, reformist, pre-love, nuclear family, extended family, gay, lesbian, and many more utopians. Utopianism, some argue, is essential for the improvement of the human condition, but if used wrongly, it becomes dangerous. Utopia has an inherent contradictory nature here. So here are some utopian works that Thomas More's Utopia, Edward Berens's Looking Backward, and Ursula's The Dispossessed. Characteristics of utopian literature, like citizens are truly free to think independently. Citizens have no fear of the outside world. Citizens live in a harmonious state. The natural world is embraced and revered. The citizens embrace social and moral ideals. So, dystopian elements in a dance of the forest. So, as Wole Soyinka in this play, Dance of the Forest, represent these some dystopian elements like socio-political themes, chaotic and disordered society, and character conflicts and struggles. Yes, in this play, so Wole Soyinka criticized corruption, oppression, and power struggles in society. Wole Soyinka shows how greedy and immoral leaders exploit and oppress people for their own benefit. There are many characters in this play, A Dance of the Forest. They have lots of conflicts both inside themselves and with others. Then utopian aspects in A Dance of the Forest. In this play, Wole Soyinka represent these utopian aspects like elements of hope and renewal, cultural revival and anti-colonial resistance, aspirations for a better future, and acts of defense. So, as in this slide, that Wole Soyinka portrays character who engage in acts of defense against the oppressive forces that seek to control them. And despite all the darkness of chaos in the play, Soyinka gives to movement of hope and the dance for things to get better. Soyinka's vision for society in this play, A Dance of the Forest. So, Soyinka's plays are deeply influenced by the philosophical worldview, which blend African traditions, mythology, and a strong belief in social justice and human dignity. In this play, he presents a multifaceted critique of social ills, including corruption, oppression, and the erosion of cultural values. He also offers a vision of hope, renewal, and the possibility of societal transformation through resistance and the reclamation of cultural identity. So, the use of mythology, rituals, and archetype is a hallmark of Soyinka's writing, serving as powerful symbols and vehicles for social commentary. Soyinka's vision remains profoundly relevant in contemporary society, as many of the issues he grappled with continue to resonate globally. The themes of corruption, exploitation, and the erosion of cultural values are still prevalent in various contexts. His call for social justice, ethical governance, and the preservation of cultural identities remains an urgent and necessary message. Critical reception and interpretations in this play, A Dance of the Forest, that the Wole Soyinkas represent these critical interpretations that has significant critical acclaim for its powerful exploration of socio-political themes, cultural identity, and the complexities of human nature. While the dystopian aspects of the play are overt and have been widely acknowledged, the utopian elements have been subject to varied interpretations. Some critics view the utopian elements as a counterbalance with the darkness, offering hope and the possibility of renewal through resistance and the reclamation of cultural identity. So, the interplay between despair and hope, destruction and renewal has been seen as a reflection of the cyclical nature of societal evolution and the enduring human capacity for transformation. This play is widely regarded as the seminal work in Nigerian literature and theatre, commenting Wole Soyinka's status as a literary giant and a powerful voice for social and political commentary. The play's exploration of cultural identity, colonialism, and the complexities of human nature have profoundly influenced subsequent generations of Nigerian writers and playwrights. To conclude, this play encapsulates Wole Soyinka's philosophical and ideological worldview, blending African traditions, mythology, and resolved belief in social justice. His masterful use of symbolism, allegory, archetypes, elements, place themes resonating across generations and cultures. The play's enduring legacy lies in its profound impact on Nigerian literature and theatre, inspiring subsequent writers and playwrights to celebrate cultural heritage while confronting pressing societal issues. Its exploration of post-colonial realities, cultural identity, and the complexities of human nature have enriched critical discourse and solidified Soyinka's status as a literary champion. These are my works. I will. If you have any question, you can ask.
Gopi, my question is, according to you, in what ways does a dance of the forest reflect Wole Soyinka's broader vision of society?
Okay. So, according to me, A Dance of the Forest reflects Wole Soyinka's broader visions for society by critiquing social injustice and power imbalance while also exploring hope for cultural revival and renewal. Through this play, A Dance of the Forest, Wole Soyinka underscores the importance of preserving cultural identity and also the resisting oppressive forces to achieve more just and to achieving more just and equitable society. So, through that, we can say that this play, A Dance of the Forest, will reflect also in that broader vision of society.
Business.
Gopi, my question for you is that can you elaborate more on the chaotic and disordered society depicted in the play A Dance of the Forest?
Yes, as I already mentioned in my slide that the chaotic and disordered society depicted in the play, A Dance of the Forest, by that. It serves as the backdrop of exploring the dystopian aspect of the narratives, and it reflects the breakdown of the traditional values and norms, and highlighting the moral decay and societal disintegration brought by oppression and corruption. So, Wole Soyinka present in his play that the chaotic and disordered society depicted in the play through the lens of dystopian aspects. Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Katariya Ghanshyam, and today's my topic of presentation is Ngugi wa Thiong'o's portrayal of the proletarianization of the Kenyan masses. In this presentation, I would focus on how Ngugi wa Thiong'o is trying to observe and depict the oppression and the neo-colonized proletarianization of Kenyan citizen through his novel Petals of Blood. This is my personal information. Table of content. In this presentation, I would talk about the author, about the novel, and Mau Mau rebellion, then proletarianization, and the character of Abdullah and Wanja as a symbol. I would talk about this proletarianization and then conclusion. About the author, Ngugi wa Thiong'o was born in 1938 in Kenya into a large peasant family. He is a renowned Kenyan writer, novelist, playwright, and academic. Some of his notable works includes the novels Wheat Not Child, The River Between, Grain of Wheat, Petals of Blood, and Wizard of the Crow. He was a central figure in the push to decolonize African literature and champion the use of African languages in writing. For his activism and criticism of the Kenyan government, he was imprisoned in 1977 and later forced into exile from 1982 to 2004. He has taught at various prestigious universities, including the University of Nairobi, Northwestern University, Yale University, New York University, and currently holds a position at the University of California, Irvine. Ngugi has received numerous honors and awards, including the Nonino International Prize for Literature and 11 honorary doctorates from universities around the world. He is a member of the American Academy of Arts and Letters and the American Academy of Arts and Science. About the novel, Petals of Blood is a novel written by Ngugi wa Thiong'o and first published in 1977. set in Kenya just after independence. The story follows four main characters: Muniro, Abdullah, Wanja, and Karega, whose lives are intertwined due to the Mau Mau rebellion. In order to escape city life, each retreats to the small pastoral village of Ilmore. As the novel process, the character deals with persecution of the Mau Mau rebellion as well as with new, rapidly westernized Kenya. The novel largely deals with skepticism of change after Kenya's independence from colonial rule. It also deals with other themes, including the challenges of capitalism, politics, and the effects of westernization. Education, schools, and Mau Mau rebellion are also used to unite the characters who shares a common history with one another. The Mau Mau rebellion. The Mau Mau rebellion was from 1952 to 1960. The colony of Kenya was gripped by turmoil and bloodshed as Britain struggled to maintain its hold on the African colonies. Various tribal factions, known collectively as the Mau Mau, launched a guerrilla campaign against their European oppressors. The cause of that was after the First World War, the ex-soldiers were given the lands that was very little and remained for the farmers of Kenya. And by that, the Kenyan farmers and citizens were against that, and they started the protest and create organizations such as East African Association and the Kenya African Unions, and they tried to protest this oppression by European oppressors. Through the Mau Mau rebellion, atrocities were committed by both the sides as they used violence against each other. British war crimes and abuses were legion. People were executed in villages and concentration camps were set up in which conditions were appalling. Violence was rife. Detainees were denied access to medical aids, and women were regularly raped. By the 1955, the through the detention camps, they tried to get hold into this rebellion, and many detainees confessed and gave information on the fellow Mau Mau rebellions. The official death toll among the Mau Mau is reported to be 11,503. This figure is, however, most certainly wrong, and the real death toll is thought to be much higher. In the contrast, a total of 32 white Europeans are claimed to have been killed by the Mau Mau. And this Mau Mau rebellion ended in around 1960 and was technically a failure. But after the rebellion, Kenya got its independence. Proletarianization. This term is originated in Karl Marx's theory of capitalism, articulated in his book Capital, Volume 1, and initially refers to the process of creating a class of workers, the proletariat, who sold their labor to factories and business owners, who Marx refers to as the bourgeois or the owner of the means of production. According to Marx and Engels, as they describe in the manifesto of the Communist Party, the creation of the proletariat was a necessary part of the transition from the feudal to capitalist economy and social system. In recent decades, if we try to exemplify this in this more recent times in this time, then we can say that China, India, and Brazil, like countries has been proletarized as the globalization of capitalism pushes factory job out of Western nations and into nations in the global South and East, where labor is cheaper by comparison. So now the proletarianization try to locate into this novel by Ngugi wa Thiong'o. Then Ngugi wa Thiong'o interprets the class struggle in the novel along the Marxist line. The struggle is a result of the conduct of the power elite in their relationship with the lower classes. He regards the Kenyan power elite, the businessman, and intellectual and the traditional rulers, among others, as accomplices that have failed the Kenyan masses because they are obsessed with the wealth and property and forget the plight of the ordinary people, thereby abandoning them to providence and charity. The mutilation of the land by both colonial and post-colonial oppressor is done through the aid of religion, culture, and education institutions which perpetuate mental slavery of the processed and protest the interest of the oppressor. The choice lands were shared only among the bourgeois and the expense of poor. Capitalism took over when colonization moved out of the sense. It was only a change of drivers and not a change of direction. So after the colonization is over and the power was among the native Kenyans, they tried to impose the capitalism and became the bourgeois and try to get hold on the peasant classes and the poor. The capitalists and their agents, Chui, Nazigo, and Dairy move into their development projects, roads, banks, factories, distilleries, and housing estates. These developments quickly destroy the fabric of traditional Ilmu. So these characters in the novel are the representatives of the capitalist and bourgeois classes. Now, the Abdullah as the betrayed character and as the representatives of the rebellions or the ordinary citizens of Kenya, Abdullah, the introvert Mau Mau fighter, was totally betrayed by the country he fought for. Independent Kenya failed to rehabilitate the one-legged fighter who sacrificed his family and land for the country. So he was a character who fought for the independence of the Kenya and lost his leg during the rebellion and was trying to have this independence at all costs and tried everything and sacrifices most of the part of his life. He represents the liberation battle for independence and social justice where justice veterans. However, he and those he represents unfortunately becomes outsiders in the very community for which they made such a great sacrifice. The force of power and dehumanization tramps on and betray him, leaving him physically traumatized, deeply frustrated, and financially impoverished. We can see this in his dialogues that when he was in his phase of rebellion and he was saying that no longer would I see the face of the white man laughing at our efforts and the Indian traders with his obscenities. He too would go. Factories, tea, and coffee estates would belong to us, Kenya people. And he later says that I waited for land, reforms, and retribution. I waited for a job. So he kind of feels like as a betrayed person, or he feels the betrayal after the independence struggle that he was gone through, and now that his own people is in the power, he is not getting the result of what he was gone through. Wanja as a symbol. So here, the female protagonist of the novel, Wanja is also a powerful woman character in the novel. The revolutionary role of women in this text can be seen firstly from Vanja, one of the major characters. She is presented as a liberated, unbiased, oppressed, and exploited woman. Her role in the entire novel is that of a facilitator. Her life as a prostitute allows her greater mobility in and out of the major events in the novel. So she becomes the center of the novel to explore the condition of the Kenya, and in a way, she is the representative of the whole country of Kenya. She symbolizes ruthless exploitation experienced by women of post-colonial Kenya, unemployed, sexually harassed, uneducated, landless, and cut off from the family. Wanja, the extraordinary struggling female character like Kenya itself, has the fight to stay alive and for whom destruction is never too far away. Being humiliated by the society and hostility of the world, she allows herself to turn cruel like the surroundings. She is she is oppressed and harassed by most of the character throughout the novel, and she lost her business of Thengeta drink, which she sells, and it gets capitalized, and then she turns to prostitution and try to get the livelihood from that. So she is more oppressed in the novel. Conclusion. In the conclusion, I would like to say that in this novel, the Petals of Blood represents the innocence and the country of Kenya, which is covered by the evil and is destroying its innocence itself. The flower thus becomes a symbol of the entire society, potentially healthy, beautiful, and productive, but its potential is unrealized and destroyed by the agents of corruption and death. So, in the title, The Petals of Blood, which is representing the Thengeta flower, but it is also representative of innocence and the country of Kenya itself. Petals of Blood reflects the exploitation of Africans by the fellow blacks. When Kenyans were fighting for independence, they all had one voice and one common enemy. But with the attainment of independence, the reality becomes that of a hand feeding on her laid eggs. The Kenyan nation today is being built on the capitalism imperialistic foundation rather than on her originally communalism. The majority of Kenyan peasants live in a state of poverty. The life of the urban poor is made worse by the appalling housing condition and poor urban services. So this way we can see the proletarianization of Kenyan masses, and they get goes under the capitalistic operation from their own people, which are now trying to be the bourgeois or the capitalistic classes, and use the peasant masses to get their own benefit, while the most of the people goes under the poverty and suffer. This is my references. Now you can ask the question.
Ghanshyam, how does Ngũgĩ depict the relationship between proletarianization and the loss of cultural identity and heritage?
We can say that the cultural identity or heritage is connected with their own people and their unity. when they were fighting for the independence and Mau Mau rebellion, they were organized and they had this brotherhood or cultural unity. But after the independence, they are facing that the power is imposing the capitalistic system on the nation, and they are westernizing the system and institution, and they are being more capitalized rather than they are following their cultural identity or cultural unity and their brotherhood. That's how I think Ngugi wa Thiong'o is depicting the relationship of proletarialization and loss of cultural identity.
Ghanshyam, my question is that what parallels can be drawn between the proletarialization depicted in this particular novel and contemporary proletarialization in society?
So the parallels between the contemporary and the novel. So Ngugi wa Thiong'o is depicting the Kenyan society, and after the independence, how the capitalism gets hold onto the Kenyan society. If we try to see this proletarialization in the contemporary society, then we can say that through the globalization, the capitalization is reaching throughout the world, and the second world country is becoming the proletarians or the proletarian society, where the globalized nations and organization are in the power, and they are the one which are in the rule, and other the labor and laborers and vision classes are facing the consequences of the capitalistic systems. That way, I think this is related to contemporary society. Thank you.
Hello everyone. On the second day of our presentation, semester 4, I am going to deal with the topic, the construction of black women in literature with special reference to the joys of motherhood. These are my personal information. This is the table of content about which I am going to deal with. So our world is full of diverse cultures and experiences, and literature has the power to bridge these gaps and fosters empathy. The representation of black women in literature has often been limited by stereotypes like the nurturing mommy figure, the stoic strong black women, or simply object of desire. This portrayal of failed to capture the richness and complexities of black womanhood. There are powerful voices challenges this stereotype, like Buchi a significant figure in African literature, deconstruct this limitation through her novel, Joys of Motherhood, offering a multifaceted portrayal of black motherhood. Construction of black women in literature. For centuries, literature has presented a limited view of black women, often relying on reductive stereotypes. This portrayal, while ingrained in popular consciousness, failed to capture the richness and complexity of black womanhood. Let's examine three common stereotypes through the lens of Deborah McDowell's seminal work, The Changing Same, Black Women's Literature, Criticism and Theory. And these three stereotypes are the mommy figure, the strong black woman, and hypersexuality. So first, the mommy figure. This stereotype depicts black woman as nurturing, loyal, occurs often serving white families. For example, Mami in Gone with the Wind, written by Margaret Mitchell, in which the character of Mami Prissy is she is a maid of main female protagonist Okara. This portrayal erases the history of slavery and its violence. Black women were not simply devoted caregivers; they were enslaved people who faced immense hardship. The Mami stereotype ignores their own families' desires and resistance to their circumstances. It reduces them to one-dimensional figure, ignoring their own struggles and agencies. The second stereotype is the strong black women. This archetype portrays black women as stoic and resilient figures who endure immense hardship without complaint. For example, the character of Kelly in The Color Purple, written by Alice Walker, while highlighting their strength is valuable, it can become a monolithical portrayal. Black women experience a range of emotions and vulnerabilities. This stereotype can also be seen as a burden, implying a black woman must always be strong and never falter. Overlooking this complexity, all black face. Here we have another example of the novel Toni Morrison's Beloved. It explores the psychological impact of slavery on Seth, the character, a former enslaved woman, showcasing her strength in enduring physical and emotional trauma. However, the novel also delves into her vulnerability and internal struggle, offering a more nuanced portrayal. Then hypersexuality, the third stereotype. This portrayal focuses solely on a black woman's physicality and perceived exoticism, often in the context of male desire. For example, Black Woman Encounters in the Heart of Darkness, written by Joseph Conrad. This not only reduces them to object of desire, but also ignores their intellect, agency, and multifaceted personalities. These stereotypes stem from a colonial gaze that objective black woman and erases their individuality. Similarly, the character of Pecola Breedlove in Morrison's W.S. Style, she internalized white beauty standard and earned for blue eyes, highlighting the societal messages that can sexualize black women at a young age and diminish their sense of self-worth. These stereotypes limit our understanding of black women's experiences. They fail to capture the full spectrum of their lives, struggles, and joys. By relying on these tropes, literature reinforces a narrow and often inaccurate view of black womanhood. Then Ngugi as a black woman, portrayed by Buchi in The Joys of Motherhood. Buchi Joys of Motherhood introduced Ngugi, a complex protagonist who challenges the limitation of the strong black woman stereotype. Within a patriarchal and colonial Nigerian society, Ngugi embodies both strength and vulnerability, offering a nuanced portrayal of black womanhood. There's no doubt about Ngugi's remarkable strength and resilience. She endures the loss of multiple children, navigates a difficult marriage with disappointments, and establishes a successful trading business to support her family. These actions showcase her resourcefulness, determination, and ability to overcome adversity, and highlighted by the article written by Nema Toho Dekite and Tolo Stephanie Blini, who emphasized Ngugi's exceptional resilience in the face of hardship. Ngugi's initial goal of achieving motherhood reflects the immense pressure placed on women in her Igbo culture. Motherhood becomes a defining factor in a woman's identity and social status. Ngugi's initial drive to conceive demonstrates her adherence to this societal expectation and her desire to fulfill a traditional role. Through the dialogue from the text, we can understand the motherhood presented by Buchi Emeseta. I quote, "It occurred to Ngugi that she was a prisoner, imprisoned by her love for her children, imprisoned in her role as the senior wife. As an Igbo woman, Ngugi can pursue only one life path. She must produce children, preferably boys. As the senior wife, Ngugi is expected to endure the humiliation when Adaku, nay-faced, crafty and attractive second wife, arrives in Lagos and becomes part of the Oghulung family. Buchi Emecheta's treatment of maternity in The Joys of Motherhood is historical comprehensive, and the novel captured the social flux to which the authors showed considerable sensitivity by describing women's role as the bearers of labor power and men's control over women's reproduction power. Emecheta analyzed the political economy of maternity during the pre-colonial period. However, Emecheta avoids portraying Ngugi as an unwavering, strong black woman. The novel explores her emotional vulnerability, particularly through her grief after losing children and the strain placed on her marriage. She experiences moments of despair and loneliness, defying the stereotype of constant emotional fortitude, as the Chikwenye Okonzu Ogiemi observed in his article. Ngugi's vulnerability allows the reader to see her as a human being, not just a symbol of strength. So, after seeing many critics and their perspective, we can see that Ngugi stands as a strong black woman. But after going deep into the novel, we see that Ngugi's effort, she did much effort to being a strong woman and self-reliance. But after Ngugi's efforts to achieve self-reliance are constantly hampered by the limitation placed upon her as a woman in a patriarchal society. So to conclude, our exploration of black women in literature reveals a complex and evolving landscape. While figures like Ngugi and Buchi Emecheta's The Joys of Motherhood dismantle limiting stereotype of black motherhood, a rich tapestry of experiences exists beyond this single narrative. Black women writers throughout history have challenged these limitations, offering characters who are strong, vulnerable, resilient, and defy categorization. By dismantling these stereotypes and celebrating the multifaceted nature of black women, literature empowers us to see the fullness of their humanity and the richness of their stories. These are the references. If you have any questions, then you can ask.
Gayatri, how do literary portrayals of black women influence the way readers of all backgrounds perceive race, gender, and identity?
The portrayal of black women influence the ways reader of all background. If we talk about a black woman and the reader are of all backgrounds, then we can understand that the other backgrounds reader can feel this character or their life and their problem and struggle through the lens of African or a black woman or the black person as a character, and through their influence, they can understand the race, gender, and identity of the black person.
Gayatri, my question is, when black women write their own stories, the construction of black womanhood can shift significantly. So, in The Joys of Motherhood, when Buchi Emecheta is writing about it, how does the author's own background and perspective influence the portrayal of black?
In the construction of black character or any character in literature, the author's own background or own experience matters a lot. In this, The Joys of Motherhood, the character Buchi Emecheta is a black character, a black person, and in the character Ngugi, in the novel Ngugi is the black character, and here or in literature, author's own background shows her or his own perspective and his or her own experiences. Through their own experiences, readers can connect easily to the character, to the novel, and that's why the author's own background and perspective influence the portrayal of black characters. Thank you.
Just one question. You submitted, so you can reply in the comment. YouTube comment.
Good afternoon, everyone. So today is the second day of presentation season 4, and today is a paper of the African literature. And in that paper, my topic of today's presentation is feminist analysis of marginalized women in Ngugi Thiong'o's Petals of Blood. So this is my personal and academic information. These are some points to ponder which I'm going to discuss in today's presentation. First, introduction of author and novel. So Ngugi Thiong'o was born in 1938 in Kenya, and he received his education at various schools in Kenya. And Ngugi Thiong'o has held various academic positions, including lectures in English literature at University of Nairobi from 1967 to 1977, and he currently serves as a distinguished professor of English and contemporary literature at the University of California. And throughout his career, Ngugi has been a prolific writer, producing novels, plays, essays, and other works. And he has received numerous honors and awards throughout his career, including 7 honorary doctorate and being made an honorary member of American Academy of Letters. He has written many novels like Petals of Blood and Beat of Child and other things. Petals of Blood is one of his famous novel, which published in 1977. And this novel set in the post-colonial Kenya. And novel explores the themes like colonialism, independence, and social injustice. So in this novel, the plot revolves around 4 characters: Munira, Wanja, Karega, and Abdullah. So these 4 characters are intertwined with one murder, which is a murder of 3 characters: Chui, Mizigo, and Kimiria. And in that, we have this legacy of colonialism, and this novel is set in the Mau Rebellion, which is against the colonialist thing. The novel has been celebrated for its bold critique of societal structure and its exploration of human condition in a rapidly changing world. And this was a last novel by by Ngugi Thiong'o as written in English. And after that, he transferred his writing in his own native language, which is Kuki. And women's role and experience in African society. So. In African society, there were most prominent women writers are not there, and at that time, Western patriarchy and colonial things were there. So women were suppressed by Western feminist ideals clashes with African culture. Urban African societies present economical construction for women, leading some to choose prostitute as a means of independence. Author like Ngugi attempts to address women's issue with broader social and political context, reflecting varying ideological approaches. I have taken the Gayatri Spivak's essay, Can the Subaltern Speak? And in that, she is also talking about subaltern things with the context of feminist reading of that. By subaltern, Spivak means that suppressing subjects, or more generally those of inferior rank. She goes to add on that, I quote, in the context of colonial production, the subaltern has no history and cannot speak. The subaltern as a female is even more deeply in shadow. And another quote by Gayatri Chakravarti Spivak is like that. What as object of colonialist historiography and as a subject of insurgency, the ideological construction of gender keeps the male dominant. If, in the context of colonial production, the subaltern has no history and cannot speak, the subaltern is female, is even more deeply enshrined. By this quote, she's trying to say that subaltern is that which is inferior, but who is subaltern as a female is more even deeply enshrined. The woman is owned by a man as a land is owned by the same man. But in Ngugi's fiction, the female is given a voice to speak. So this is a contrast in Ngugi's novel. And Ngugi showing female as the voice, Ngugi's female has the voice of her or own. And in this novel, Petal of Blood, we could find that Vanja has a voice. And African women, but due to the corruption and specifically the moral on this devastated Kenya, is impossible for women to find a job. And because of that, they have to do prostitution or that kind of things. And because of portraying women like this, we can say that Ngugi wa Thiong'o is a feminist. And one unique features of Ngugi's narrative technique in his distribution of individuals shares role among his male and female characters. According to M.L. Jasmine, in Petal of Blood, Nakunya and Vanja is resisting oppression and exploitation, showing their multi-faced identity as mother, educator, and other things within the patriarchal structure of African society. Ngugi highlight the impact of colonialism on the destruction of traditional African societies. Ngugi's novels illustrate the complexity of women's experience, portraying both their strengths and vulnerability, and emphasize the necessity of women's empowerment and resistance against colonial patriarchal structure. So in this novel, we have two major feminist, or we can say a female character, which is Nakunya and Vanja. Both, one is older Nakunya, who is grandmother of Vanja, and young Vanja. Both unite the three protagonists, we can say, Munira, Abdullah, and Katariya. So Vanja's arrival in remote village of Ilmur from the city after tiring of prostitution life bring back life to the once dull village. Nakunya Sherpas Karega's knowledge of the history of Ilmur. So Nakunya trying to teach Karega about the history of Ilmur. So she became the education person. She gives Vanja the secret of brewing real Zangeta, which she used with Abdullah. So Nakunya gave this secret recipe of Zangeta drink to the Abdullah, Karega, and Vanja and Munira, four of them. And after that, she dies, and Abdullah and Vanja trying to sell this Zangeta at their bar, and at that time, Vanja get job and she became a barmaid. And then this international drink, it hand on the capitalist, Chui, Visigo and Iberia, who died. And this exemplary of old women is appropriate as a mother of man. So because of that, Nakunya is called as the mother of man. Ngugi was portrayal of women in his novel, reflecting a mixture of oppression and resistance, shedding light on the societal role of struggle faced by African women. So, when we read this Vanja as a character of representation of Kenya's women or African women, we could find that she is trying to find a job and like that. And she is trying to find her own place in that patriarchal African society. So she was a prostitute, and she quotes like this: if you have a cunt, if you are born with this hole, instead of being a source of pride, you are doomed to either marry someone or else being a whore. So by males, like in the patriarchal society, she is trying to say that women are seen as object and subvert creature. One just thinks that if you are a woman, your pet is to marry someone or be a whore. And we point out that factors which forced Vanja to prostitution. Through the image of Vanja, Ngugi stressed the condition of
the exploitation of women in African society, especially in Kenya. So, in this novel, we can say that Vanja symbolizes the whole Kenya, or we can say a female of Kenya. Vanja is also clearly shows that injustice and inequality between men and women. She is aware of that, what is happening in colonized patriarchal society. The gender discrimination is clearly understood from the lines of Vanja. She says, I quote, but boys were always more confident about the future than girls. They seemed to know what they wanted to become later in life. Well, with us girl, the future seems bright. It was as if we knew what that no matter what efforts we put in our studies or our road leads to the kitchen or to the bedroom. So these are some lines which we can say that Banja is very, we can say, a suppressed woman in patriarchal society. But in contrast of Ngugi's, in contrast of Chakravarti's Vivek saying that women are more to be like to be married or to be given a birth to a child. And in this novel, Petals of Blood, Ngugi is trying to give a voice to her female protagonist. And this is Bonnie Rose's article on the rehistoricizing the conflicted figures of women. So in that, he critiqued the uncritical admiration of Vanja's agency, like arguing that it overlooked deeper issue in her characterization, like she was a prostitute and all kind of things. Ngugi's narrative intertwined themes of colonial, neo-colonization, and the struggle of revolution and depiction of women. Vanja's character embodies complexity of relation of tradition, gender roles, sexuality, and economical power, reflecting broader societal issues within the novel. And there are some questions raises after we analyze that Ngugi was give agency and voice to the marginalized women within the novel. So yes, he gives a voice to a protagonist who is a female protagonist, and he challenges the traditional narrative of female subjugating and voicelessness. In African society, we could find that women are not that much educated or kind of thing. They are more to give a birth to a child or do a prostitution or that kind of things. In conclusion, we can say that Vanja's portrayal of Thiong'o's narrative serves as a reflection of struggle endured by Kenyan women. And in that, we can find that they are struggling with the patriarchal society and colonialism and other things. Her realizing exploitation and oppression undergoes the enduring spirit of Kenyan women. Vanja's transformative presence in Ilmo symbolizes that potential for rejuvenation in empowerment, illustrating the capacity of individuals and particularly women to categorizing position change within the community despite systematic challenges. So we can say that with that, Ngugi Thiong'o's Petals of Blood trying to portray women as a, we can say, a protagonist who has a voice of her own, and she is trying to educate that person who is a child and a brother of Abdullah. And after that, we can say that she was an independent woman because she became a barmaid, and after that, loss and everything will happen. So she could find a ways to earning money by being a whore and prostitution kind of thing. And she has a resistance towards her rapist, who is that person, Kimira, and trying to kill him. And that kind of resistance and this kind of portrayal of Vanja's character in Ngugi's novel, we find that Kenyan women have voice. These are some references which I have used during my presentation. Now I'm open for questions. Thank you.
Drashti, my question is, as the novel is depicting Wanja as a marginalized woman character, how does the portrayal of marginalized woman in Petals of Blood contribute to feminist understanding of the portrayal of female in post-colonial literature and society?
So, as we say that in post-colonial society, there were not equality of genders and that kind of thing. But in that time, we could find that Gayatri Chakravarti's Vivak tells about how subaltern can speak, and in that she's trying to say that subaltern or a female subaltern both have no voice. And in that portrayal of marginalized women in Petals of Blood contribute that other American writers, or we can say other colonized writers, are trying to portray women as an object. And in Ngugi Thiong'o's writing, we could find that he is different from other African writers as well. That he is trying to portray a female character as, we can say, a protagonist of his novels. And in that, her female characters have voice of her own. And she is trying to find her own identity in that patriarchal society of colonized, we can say colonized society or patriarchal things. So yeah, that contributes a lot in patriarchal colonized African society.
My question is, what parallels can be drawn between the experiences of the woman in the Petals of Blood and contemporary feminist struggles?
Okay. So we can say that draws a parallel between both. In today's society, we could find, as Sir mentioned earlier in class, that જ્યારે આપણે ભણતા હોય ને ત્યારે છોકરીઓ વર્ષ થાય ને તો છોકરીઓ ખબર નહીં ક્યાં પુરુષ આગળ જતા રહે. મતલબ કે જે બોયઝ હોય ત્યારે મતલબ we could say that in studies we can find that those are more ranked or in school days or in college days. But after 30s or 40s, we could find that males are more in jobs or in other kind of things. So we can say that in today's time as well, we could not find that the females are out of kitchens. Or we can say they are trying to have a pace with patriarchal things, but though we could find that there are several points that we couldn't think about in patriarchal society, that women are still not finding place. So yeah, that's it from my side. I hope you are satisfied with my answer. Thank you.
There were questions you can reply in
Okay, sir.
comment to reply to.
So, good afternoon, everyone. This is the second day of presentation and of African literature, and my topic name is Eco-Critical Perspective in Wole Soyinka's Dance of the Forest. Sorry, is a forest spelling error. Here is my personal information. A table of content which I will deal with in whole presentation. In a previous presentation of Gopi, she mentioned all this about writer and about play. So let's move further to my presentation. The question raised in this my presentation is, how does the play A Dance of the Forest by Wole Soyinka highlights issue of environmental damage and exploitation? So start with what is the eco-criticism about? So according to glossary terms by Abraham, eco-criticism was a term coined in the late 1970s by combining criticism with a shortened form of ecology, the science that investigate the interrelations of all forms of plant and animal life with each other and with their physical habits. Eco-criticism designates the critical writing that explore the relations between literature and the biological and physical environment, conducted with an acute awareness of the damage being brought on that environment by human activities. Soyinka's ecological vision in the play. The play shows how human careless harm nature for their own selfish reason, for their personal things, greedy things, for the celebration in the play. For the celebration, trees in the sacred forest are cut down to carve a totem pole and build a road. This angers the forest god Ishuro to cover up his son's wrongdoing. A man named orders a falling vehicle to drive through the forest, filling the air with toxic fumes. Ishiro is furious at the great destruction of the forest just for human pride and glorification. During the forest ceremony, nature spirits appears and express anger over human actions harming the environment, and the palm tree spirits is upset about excessive palm wine consumption which harms tree. The precious stone spirit mourns human greed, leading to violence against indigenous tribes for valuable minerals. Colonizers saw indigenous people as inferior, using violence to take their lands for mining. These spirits highlights issue of overconsumption, greed, and violence against those protecting nature. Here is the dialogue of palm tree. Spirit waits. In the novel, Whole Soyinka add many spirits like a spirit of palm, spirit of darkness, spirit of species stone, spirit of the patchy dreams, spirit of the river, spirit of the sun, and spirit of the volcano. Through these spirits, volcano wants to say about the nature, how people harm and become a danger for nature for their greediness. In the article of Don Singh, in the his some principles of eco-criticism points out eco-criticism is most appropriately applied to a work in which the landscape itself a dominant character when a significant interaction occurs between author and place, characters and place. Landscape by definition includes the non-human elements of place, the rocks, soils, trees, plants, rivers, animals, air, as well as human perception and modification. The play shows us spirits representing different aspects of the African environment, voicing concern about human exploitation of natural resources, very expensive resources, we can say. One key example I mentioned that spirit of the palm predicting that the life-giving palm wine will turn to blood due to humanity's evil action. Here is a dialogue from the play of Palm Tree. The sources of life have been turned into the sources of death through human interreliation is equisitely expressed in the chorus of the waters. I quote, "Let no woman think to bake her corn milk wrapped in leaves with water gathered of the rain. He will think his eye decides good trade the ripples where I run is swell. The stone shell seems as kernels. Is the pressure's feet standing in the rich and red and flowing steam. I unquote. Several spirits lament the future's environmental destruction caused by human greed. So, spirit of rivers wants its tears turn into blood. And spirit of sun wants to bloodshed. And spirits of precious stones criticize mindless mining and plundering of resources. And spirit of patchy dreams cries about extinction due to human average for ivory. The underlying this disparate voice symbolize Soyinka's prophetic fears that Nigerians will continue repeating ancient, ancestral wrong against the environment. Soyinka expressed deep anxiety that environmental exploitation, contamination, and ecological imbalance will persist without a paradigm change in humanity's relationship with nature. So, environmental issue addressed in the play, according to Xu and Bet, suggest that the future is bleak for mankind. It is this bleak future that Wole Soyinka dramatized in a dance of the forest, especially in the section where the three human characters are masked in a state of possession. They speak for the future in the voices of different spirits. As Elder Jones intimates, the spirits together symbolize the total environment of Africa, all its resource and all its potentials. To conclude, Wole Soyinka in the play, he gives a strong message about the environment through symbols and voices of nature spirits. The play warns that if humans don't completely change their uncaring attitudes toward the environment, then destruction of the land, air, water, and animals will only continue to get worse in the future. Soyinka's work is an important call for people to develop better environmental practice, find sustainable ways to live, and make sure we treat the sacred nature world with justice and respect. It was one of the first major African writing to highlight environmental issues, showing Soyinka's bold voice speaking up for protecting the bond between humans and ecological system that sustain all of life. Uh, Here is my work citation. Now you can ask me your question.
Bhavyata, can you explain the significance of some of the specific nature spirits like the palm spirit or the river spirit?
So Soyinka give the voice through the spirits. She put in the spirits in the character. So palm tree is a very benefit for the African or all the human. It gives food, some drink materials. We can get some many things from this palm tree, but because of some greediness of the people, it will turn into a blood, as the Soyinka want to try in the novel. It symbolizes that overconsumption will destroy our nature's gift. Second is the river. Spirits of the river. Spirits of the river is that life through the water. But in the play, Wole Soyinka tried to say that river's water, which is supposed to provide life to human, but in life future it will become a blood for a human because of human and they doing with the nature and greediness. We can find it out, and all these spirits in the play speaks for nature and hurt by selfish and greediness nature of people, and it will lead a destruction and rather than providing for human needs.
Bhavyata, my question is that how does Soyinka use spirit and symbolic figures to represent the environment in his play?
As I mentioned, palm tree symbolize for palm spirit symbolize for palm tree. River spirit of river symbolize for a river, and a precious spirit of precious stone spirit symbolized as the earth minerals. These spirits are express the human harm nature for their greediness. He also talk in the novel that pollution and overusing and resource used by human. Also, Inca use them to show that nature's pain, and we can say that the spirits give nature a voice, and also showing new importance to protect nature and environment. So thank you.
Very good morning to you all. Very good noon to you all. I'm Amni Chani, and today I'm going to deal with the topic, the burden of motherhood, examining the parenthood in the Buchi and Chitta's novel, The Joys of Motherhood. Here are my personal informations. Table of content. Here is the details of author, but I'm not going to go deep into that. Moving forward to the topic, the burden of motherhood in the joys of motherhood. Here I have taken the views that represents the sad ending of the motherhood, and which depicts that what kind of ending shall be there, but it is not there, and the indirect things that are mentioned to have as the ending. So the description of the book, The Joys of Motherhood, when we look at the description of the book, the cover page, it mentions that Ngũgĩ, a Nigerian woman, is ceremoniously married only to be the cast off when she fails to conceive. When she finally succeeds in becoming a mother in a second marriage, Ngũgĩ gains the respect for her family and her people. But as her family of 8 children grows, the values of her life, her people, and her country undergo bewildering changes, ultimately leaving her bereft of the pleasures that traditionally would be accorded her as a mother. So, in the very description of the book, there is a mentioning of the importance of being a mother, and in the novel also there is a journey of Ngũgĩ as the mother. Many African authors have been dealt with the notion of the motherhood. Catherine Obianju Ekolonou has coined the term motherism as an alternative to Western feminism. Capegate points out that the novel is dedicated to all mothers, which opens with the first chapter, The Mother, and ends with the last chapter, The Colonized Mother. The very chapters of the book are very interesting as it includes all the motherly aspects and all the shadows of motherness in it. Captain observes in the rigid and traditional oriented Igbo society, women were acknowledged as the trees that bear fruits. So here it is also the mentioning of the very thing of being a mother. If she is producing the child, then she is all well, she is prosperous. But if she is not able to give birth to the children, then it is she is being called as the trees that bear fruits. And it is also often called that she is barren. Adaku says while indulging into the prostitution, I want to be dignified single woman. I shall work to educate my daughters, though I shall not do so without male companionship. So while going into the prostitution, the Adaku also thinks about the motherhood. In this all the aspect in the very novel, we can see the very essence that of motherhood is concerned more about in the novel. Buchi M. Chitta stated in the talk with Adela James that in joys of motherhood, I created a woman who had 8 children and died by the wayside. So we can observe that Buchi M. Chitta herself wants to show that the situation of mother, that how mother is dying on the wayside, even though she is having 8 children. Akbari, who was a great chief and an elephant huntsman, the proud owner, is not different from another man. When he came to know that Nuigo had left for Logos, he consoled himself as, let her go, she is as barren as desert, as I have already discussed about that barrenness. Captive views without motherhood. Nuigo feels empty and struggled very hard to be a mother. Mchetta wants to transmit the point that bearing more than 5 or 6 children do not mean that a mother is going to be prosperous in her old age. Here I would like you to see the stress upon the words that children do not mean that a mother is going to be prosperous in her old age. Catherine Frank asserts that Amichita's portrayal of the utter futility of motherhood in the joys of motherhood represents the most heretical and radical dimensions of her depiction of African women. Injectors Nuigo challenges the conservative conception of that producing numerous children will give a woman much ecstasy. The story addresses the idea that while motherhood is frequently portrayed as a source of enormous happiness and fulfillment, it can also bring about significant emotional hardships and obstacles, which makes the title of the book, The Joys of Motherhood, rather ironic. So, Mithili and Pratibhan considers that the title of the book is totally ironic. As it says the joys of motherhood, but throughout the novel, one cannot observe the joy, the happiness of Nuigo throughout the novel. As she also says in one of her philosophical monologue, I am a prisoner of my own flesh and blood. Is it such an enviable position? The men make it look as if we must aspire for children or die. That's why when I lost my first son, I wanted to die because I failed to live up to the standards expected of me by the males in my life. My father and my husband, and now I have to include my sons. But who made the law that we should not hope in our daughters? We women subscribe to that law more than anyone. Until we changes all this, it is still a man's world which women will always help to build. Here I am going to argue about what makes the joys of motherhood into a burden of motherhood. As I have already mentioned that the whole novel considers the thought of the very essence of the motherhood in it. So, what makes the burden for motherhood? So, first thing that is expectation. We can well observe the expectation of a new ego throughout the novel. That if she is having 8 children, as the novel writer also has said that even when if she has 8 children, she has to die wayside. So, in a way, she is also thinking indirectly that her children shall also be with her when she is dying, in her illness. So, these are the expectation of the mother. So when we have expectation, we can get hurt. So the very expecting the things from children is the very problematic in itself. Nuiko's life centers on her children, and through them she gains the respect of her community. Traditional tribal values and customs begin to shift with increasing colonial presence and influence, pushing ego to challenge accepted notions of mother, wife, and woman. So one can smell the very aspect of selfishness into the whole mother kind of thing, not only in the new ego, but also the about the mother. That I would like to say that it is not parenting; it is business. What the business has, that you have something to invest in the business, and you will get some fruit. So so the parenting also works like that, as if you have a children, and in the old age, and when you are ill or when you are dying, the children will take care of you. So this is kind of business, it is not parenting. And the second point is parents is equal to honors. Many times parents behave as the honors. Like in the one can sense the ownership in the character of Nick, who is husband of Nuigo. Naif in Nuigo has two twin daughters, and one of them has married in outer caste. So when she marries to the outer caste person, her father Naif becomes very angry, and he fights with her, and also with her in-laws, and ends up in the being front of the bus in the jail. So this ownership it has the very essence in the parenting. By citing Aguirre, the National Library of Medicine observes that in Latin American and Chilean culture, it is possible, it is plausible to hypothesize that separation anxiety towards their children would be higher in mothers than the fathers, since child rearing is still mainly perceived as a maternal responsibility. Again, with the reference of a book by Salvador Minuchin, the National Library of Medicine points out that based on the previous observations, cultural expectations, psychologists expect to see greater separation anxiety in mother than in the father. Throughout the novel, we can see the heartbrokenness and the very sadness, and the very sad ending of the Nuigo rather than the Nate, because Nuigo herself is very attached to their children, and when she loses her children, when very first she loses her children, she goes to die. She commits the suicide as if the children is the only thing for her to is the reason to survive. So the very in perspective of the being parent is in the mind of Nuigo, and being parent, apart from being parent, she is more I consider her more selfish, that she wants her children
to be with her in her dying days. But she is not getting the point that her children are out of the country, and they are far from the country, and living outside of the country, and studying abroad. They cannot afford to come here and go there very often. So the mothers sometimes have to lose the attachment to see the progress of the children. But here we cannot see the Ngugi's that happiness to see her children growing up very high, and she is very sad in the ending, as her children are not there to be with her. So that's it. In conclusion, the Joys of Motherhood by Buchi and dwells deep into the complexities of parenthood, particularly the burdens and the expectations placed upon mothers in traditional African society. So the Joys of Motherhood is a very novel that hides the pros and cons of being parent, and some expectations kind of thing that is getting triggered by the new ego. And as the Bagban and Karan Arjun movie and many movies has shown that that the children always have to be there for their parents, but it is not so. While going abroad, or while studying, or while doing job, person may not be able to come there and join their family. So in this world, one has to be practical and see the progress of their children. That is the true selfishlessness. So here I end my presentation. Now I'm open for my questions.
Of me, my question is, while your presentation seems critical of parenthood, what are your views on parents who wish to live with their children, especially in old age? How should children approach this situation?
So this situation is a very moral kind of a thing. If children are able to join their family, then they must attend their family, and they shall be with their families. But if they are not able to join, if they are living abroad or doing some business, or engaged in some kind of progress work, then it is totally fine. In my opinion, it is totally fine to not to take care of parents while they are in their old age. When we are having money, we can have the nurse who can take care of them. So one can see the situation in that side also. After all, we are earning to have secure life at the ending of our life. So that's it. I hope you are getting it.
I want to ask you that whom do you consider as the feminist idea in the novel, Adaku or Ngugi?
The novel has portrayed Ngugi and Adaku both as with a feminist perspective. But in my opinion, as per my point of view, I consider Adaku more feminist ideal than the Ngugi. As I think the Adapu has the very mindset of Franz Fanon and the Che Guevara. And here I would like to mention the quote by Che Guevara that the freedom is not like apple, that when it the revolution is not an apple that falls when it ripes, but it is the situation that you have to make it fall. So I think the Adapu is kind of that type of girl who wants to snatch away the very freedom from her wife, from her husband, and from the family, and she wants to live totally freely in the society, and that's why she is indulging into the prostitution rather than staying, rather than selling cigarettes by roadside and still living with the family and still waiting for that for the children in her old age, like Ngũgĩ. So I consider Adaku more feminist than the Ngũgĩ. That's it from my side. Thank you so much. Good morning to all of you. Today is the second day of our presentation, semester 4, in which I am going to deal with my presentation topics: women, victimizations in Buchi and MHS, the joys of motherhood. So my topic is the Buchi and Cheta's the joys of motherhood, in which they portray that how gender, culture traditions, socio-economic traditions, and societal acceptance create a complex web of victimizations and subjugations. This is my academic information. Here is the table of contents in which I am going to deal with my whole presentation. About author. Buchi and Cheta's full name Florence Onyebuchi. She is novelist, was born in Yaba near Lagos in Nigeria on 21st July 1944 to Igbo Christian parents. Her first novel In the Ditch published in 1972, and her internationally best known work The Joys of Motherhood published in 1979. About the novel, Buchi M. Cheta has written a novel that is engrossing, if not a technical masterpiece. Because of her attention to detail, the reader is able to feel the rhythm and nuances of life in both the Igbo village and in that teeming metropolis Lagos. The author's best work is her presentations, Ngũgĩ, frustrations and apprehensions. The setting is Nigeria prior to, during, and after World War II, but there is much here with which any woman can identify, particularly if she is or has met. Ngũgĩ, in her effort to fulfill traditional acceptance during times of rapid social change, finds herself not only struggling for physical survival, but also struggling to understand why her life is so difficult. So, the novel of Buchi M. Cheta, The Joys of Motherhood, it brought her widespread
critical acclaim and established her as a significant voice in African literature. And it is a semi-autobiographical novel which follows the life of Ngugi, who is the protagonist of the novel. And she is a Nigerian woman who sacrificed everything in the pursuit of the societal expectations placed on motherhood only to face disappointment and oppression. So women's victimizations in the joys of motherhood. So in Buchi M. Cheta's novel, The Joys of Motherhood, the characters of Ngugi serves as the primary representations of women victimization in African societies. Ngugi's life is depicted in the novel is the subjugations through the patriarchal traditions and gender roles. And Buchi M. Chetas illustrates the devastating impact of polygamy on Ngugi's life as her husband Nate takes a second younger wife. The subject of women victimizations and oppression has been of a considerable concern for many female writers throughout ages. Generally, women are considered as weaker and less powerful than men in every society around the globe. Women see themselves as the subject of malpractice and subjugations. This culture of subjugating women is worldwide. It passes on from one generation to another in a multinational and multi-ethnic society. While woman is oppressed by white men, a black woman is oppressed at two levels. She is oppressed because she is black, and she is also oppressed by black men because she is a woman. So in colonial societies, the dilemma of women is even greater as they have to undergo the different changes brought by colonialism. Colonialism had brought out a new culture with it. This culture has had a devastating impact on the life of the colonized lands in general and on women in particular. Many countries in Africa were under European colonization, and Nigeria was one of them. So Ngugi's predicament features of victimizations in Ibuza. Ngugi is an object of subjugation. She is to live according to the standards expected of her. Through Ngugi's journey, Mcheta wants to show the influence of the traditionalism and how it is responsible for the situations of the Igbo women in general. According to the values in Ibuza, a child is a part of a woman's identity and the only symbol of success and self-fulfillment for women. A woman without a child for her husband was a failed woman. So, by the way, here is the culture dictates that man is to give food and children to a woman, and a woman is to cook, bear children, and look after them. So that is to say, the having children in Ibuza is the primary source of a woman's self-esteem. So, Ngugi is the daughter of the great chief Akbari. She is brought up as the princess according to the values of Ibuza to be a successful wife and mother. Ngugi is rejected by both her father as well as her community because of her childishness. Ngugi finds herself in a pitiable situation. She has to undergo a drastic change from a powerful daughter of a powerful man to a helpless wife. Ngugi lacks the natural confidence to defy the society because she fails to be a true woman. So, victimizations in Ibuza is that of polygamy, which represents another means for men to control women. In Ibuza, the system dictates that if a wife fails to be a mother, the husband is allowed to have another wife and take back the bride price he has paid. Amato, who Ngugi's first husband, practices some violence on Ngugi's because of her failure to bear a child. He beats her mercilessly. He says to her, let her go. She is a barren as a desert. Victimizations by the bed work conditions for women in Lagos. In Ibuza, where women work side by side with their husbands and other women, the system in Lagos makes it difficult for them to share their men and any kind of work. New Ego resorts to the business of petty trading out of the increasing demands of her children. Her need for money keeps her in the strait. So this prevents her from having a sound relationship with other women in her community. New Ego resorts the business of petty trading out of increasing demands of her children. Her need for money keeps her in the street. Of course, such kind of work never provides any emotional support either between working women or between women and men. So as the Derrickson points out that the economic structure of male-controlled economy and New Ego's own attempt to play according to the rules of her newly westernized setting enslave her in a role in which she is prevented from forming useful relationship with the women around her. So here, New Ego's the first husband, Amatobu, he sends her back to her father's Akbari, and he gets married to another wife who is able to conceive. New Ego sacrifices her health and selfhood in the pursuit of failed traditions capsulated in the idea of motherhood. She is an object on which society has heaps in unfair practices and demands. Polygamy is a feature of women victimization. So first, what is polygamy? Polygamy is the practice of having several wives, and polygamy is the practice of having more than one husband at one time. Polygamy takes many forms across the globe. In some cultures, one wife is shared by many brothers. In others, the father and son have a common wife. In others, a man has many wives. Polygamy is practiced all over African communities. So the issue for polygamy is issue in a woman victimization. The joys of motherhood portrays the African woman issues and their situations within a patriarchal and male-dominated society. It depicts the life of Nigerian woman who sacrificed all her life for her children. She thinks that bearing children is the highest achievement in life. In African society at that time, women also their highest achievement is like bearing children. Buchi and seeks to expose the gender inequality and the polygamy system of oppression that regulate women to childbearing and motherhood. So, in this novel, polygamy and gender inequality are traditional factors that men use to oppress and dominate women. The novel is a powerful example on polygamy and all kind of oppressions. Most of female character in the novel tries to follow the traditional beliefs, but most of them fail. Buchi M. argues that polygamy is not a pressure drive, especially when the husband is unable to support other additional wives. In the joys of motherhood, the protagonist New Ego is the representative of all subjected African women, and polygamy is better illustrated with New Ego's who had married twice to polygamous men. In her first marriage, her husband took a second wife because she could not produce children. In polygamy is a feature of women's victimizations. So polygamy is another feature of women victimizations both in Ibusa as well as in Lagos. In the traditional Igbo society, polygamy gives some extra power to the status of women as it follows them to cope with the burden they have to save their husbands. In Ibusa, Ngugi has had to be a co-wife because of her inability to bear children in her first marriage. Uh, According to tradition in Ibuza, he has to marry the widow of his dead brother. Now Ngugi is the senior wife of Neb. In Ibuza, senior wife has certain privileges that are denied in Lagos. Adaku, next the second wife comes to life with Ngugi. Ngugi is not only about being a senior wife in Lagos. She is not apply with this new status as it requires her to play off the responsible senior wife without offering her the same benefits that once accomplished that role under the tribal system. As Nelson remarks, the Ngugi is left without the rewards that a senior wife in Ibuza has. Her predicament as a woman is exacerbated by the fact that the capitalist system she now lives under requires her to play the role of a senior wife without offering privileges. Resisting gender-based violence in Buchi Mcheta's novels, male violence emerges as a recurring theme, illuminating the harsh realities confronted by women within patriarchal societies. Buchi Mcheta sets the light on the harsh reality of male violence against women in African societies. Mcheta shows that this male violence stems from deep-rooted patriarchal norms and unequal power dynamics between men, power dynamics between men and women. The concept of male violence in Africa refers to the pervasive issue of violence perpetrated by men against women in various forms within African societies. This type of violence includes physical, sexual, and emotional abuse, as well as harmful traditional practices such as female genital mutilation and child marriage. Male violence in Africa often stems from deeply ingrained patriarchal norms and unequal power dynamics between men and women. African societies place significant value on both fertility and the birth of male children. This perspective is deeply rooted in cultural and traditional beliefs and can be seen in various aspects of social life. Fertility is highly regarded because it ensures the continuation of a family lineage and community. So, conclusion. Buchi in her novel The Joys of Motherhood provides a powerful portrayal of victimization and oppression faced by women in African societies through the experiences of the protagonist Ngugi. The author sheds light on the devastating effects of patriarchal traditions, gender roles, and polygamy on women's lives. The novel serves as a poignant commentary on a systematic subjugation of women, highlighting the need for greater gender equality and the eradication of harmful cultural practices. Mcheta's work reminds us that the struggle against gender-based violence and the empowerment of women is an ongoing journey that requires collective efforts to dismantle deep-rooted societal norms and beliefs. This is the reference. If you have any questions, then ask.
Anjali, my question is, are women are portrayed as an object with special reference of no ego in Buchi Mcheta's The Joys of Motherhood?
Buchi Mcheta's The Joys of Motherhood, in the woman, the protagonist New Ego is portrayed as an object with special reference. special reference in the novel, and some of the some are object like authenticity. Yes, new ego is is an object with special reference in new ego is in African society in African male wants that new ego is produced son rather than a girl.
Anjali, how does the author criticize polygamy when it's used to oppress women rather than being a genuine choice for all involved?
The author criticizes the practice of polygamy when it is used to oppress the woman. Oppressed woman is a subjugated woman rather than being a genuine choice for all involved. Emicheta challenges the traditional justifications and cultural acceptance of polygamy, particularly when it is used as a tool for oppression rather than being a genuine choice for a more nuanced, enhancing the nuanced understanding of a genuine, constant economic stability and respect for women's autonomy and their dignity. Thank you.
Hello everyone, I am Dervaliya. Today is the second day of semester course presentation. In this presentation, I am going to present on this topic, mother's intricacy in Buchi and Hetal, the choice of motherhood. These are my personal information. These are These are the points which I am going to comment. About the writer. Buchi Emecheta was a Nigerian writer known for her exploration of sexual politics, racial prejudice, drawing from her personal experiences as a single parent and a black woman in Britain. Her literary career began with her semi-autobiographical novel In the Ditch, followed by Second Class Citizen, which depicted the struggle of young Nigerian woman raising her children in London. Emecheta delves into the role of woman in Nigerian society with novels like The Bride Price and The Choice of Motherhood. She also explored the themes of colonialism in works such as The Slave Girl and The Rape of Shabby. She also wrote the novels for children, like one autobiography was like Head Above Water, and another is the television play A Kind of Marriage. She received recognition as one of the best of young British writer in 1983 and held academic position in the United States and Nigeria. She passed away in 2017, leaving behind a rich legacy of literary and social commentary. About the novel, this novel is a very famous novel by Buchi. It follows a story of a young woman, new ego, and her unending and undying love for her children. This novel depicts the struggle of new ego's life and her journey of especially being especially a motherhood. The Joys of Motherhood by Buchi offers a raw and sincere portrayal of motherhood set in 20th century Nigeria, spanning from 1909 to late 1950s. This vivid and authentic writing, Emecheta captures the struggle and sacrifices of the protagonist new ego in deeply patriarchal society. This novel is also delves into the themes like female empowerment, resilience, and the complexities of familiar expectations. This novel also deals with the struggle and the expectations and being a mother is in this, and these are the arguments. What role does the motherhood present in the novel? What role does an African woman present in the patriarchal ego society? And another is African woman indirectly present as the slave. So, The Joys of Motherhood by Buchi Emecheta deals with the struggle and complexities faced by Nigerian women, particularly new ego, within the tradition Igbo society. So, in the Igbo society, the motherhood, being a mother or getting a marriage is more important. And give birth to a boy child is more important than a girl. So the novel challenges the idealized notion of motherhood, highlighting the harsh realities and sacrifices. Emecheta skillfully portrays the double colonization experiences by women like New Age, cup between traditional Igbo customs and the imposition of Western values. Through New Ego's narrative, Emecheta critiques the patriarchal structure that oppresses women and emphasizes the need for societal change. The novel poignants the exploration of motherhood, sacrifice, female agency contributes to a broader African woman literary tradition, offering a powerful critique of gender roles and societal expectations. In this novel, when New Ego marries, first, she is not able to produce a child. Then her husband is not accept her and getting a second marriage. In this novel, the African woman. In this novel, Emecheta tries to draw a picture of African woman through her personal experience as a Nigerian woman who has been a victim of a way some women have been ill-treated as a result of patriarchy. She examines the institution of motherliness, unpleasant experiences, mixed up in motherliness and its shock of minds of Nigerian women. Ngugi had to experience patriarchal slavery throughout her life, and when her husband at her first marriage her husband beat her and behaved rudely with her. At that time, she feels like a slave. She feels and lives like a slave of her husband. And at the end, he died. She died in a solitude. So and another three women or mothers, Ona, Adako, and Yugo have also been victimized in a patriarchal and traditional strong ego society. There, for example, when there is in ego society, there is a tradition that when two brothers are there and one of them was died, then another brother had to accept their brother his brother's wives as his own wives. That's how. That's why Naif, the husband of New Ego, adopts his brother's wives, Ona, Adako, and Oko. Emecheta, in addition, presents the female character in the novel as a very assertive, like the character of Adako, who is someone very bold and ambitious and capable of taking daring decisions when the need arises. For example, in this novel, Adako is someone who takes steps that are beneficial to her family when it draws her on her that Naif about her daughter and her. She focuses on giving her daughters and the best of education without following the custom and tradition that make provision for only boys to enjoy Western formal education to the detriment of girls who received home training because their place in the kitchen. And the novel depicts motherhood as a very important and celebrated role for a woman in patriarchal society. Having a children, especially sons, is seen as a crucial for women's honor and status. The protagonist New Ego faced these difficulties early on due to her childlessness, which makes it hard for her fulfill the expected motherly role. Later, when she has many children, especially sons, she gains more respect. And at the starting, she is not able to bear a child, and she is not having any kind of respect, and she also tries to commit suicide. And when he getting second marriage, she is bearing sons. At that time, she also gets the respect from the society. However, the novel also critiques the immense pressure put on women to become mother above all else. Here go questions whether women must aspire for children to die and limits being a prisoner to this duty of motherhood expected by a man. She also questions the society that should motherhood is a very important than her own life. So while motherhood is presented as an esteemed role, that being a woman recognition in society, the novel also highlights the restrictive and oppressive aspect of women's life being completely denied by their ability to bear a child, especially male children. Emecheta also present the African woman as a people whose only honor is in getting married and giving birth to a child. Um, she also depicts the female characters and tries to restore a image of fallen woman in her novel. She uh, she she uh, she depicts she also the novel presents both positive and negative archetypes image uh, by the African woman. If we see positively, then African women are portrayed as peaceful, assertive, and enduring and caring mothers. And if we see it negatively, then they are depicted as inferior to men, appendages of men and prisoners to their husband, and existing solely to give birth to children. Uh, while attempting to restore the image of woman, Imageta portrays is seen as an affront by presenting more negative than a positive image of African woman. She is accepted more negatively the African women because um, they the women are uh, mostly mostly for, the women are mostly obeying or desiring a men. Ultimately, the complex role and condition of women navigating gender oppression in African societies is analyzed. Conclusion. In conclusion, Buchi Emitedas, the choice of motherhood presents a complex portrayal of African womanhood under patriarchy. While attempting to restore dignity to women, Emecheta depicts both positive image of strength and endurance as well as negative ones, oppression and confinement to restrictive role. In motherhood is paradoxically revered at imprisoning. Through new egos questioning the voice, Imageta gives voice to a feminist struggle against the patriarchal tradition that reduced women to mere childbearer. Through criticized for a negative portrait at times, the novel powerfully illuminates the vital need of unpaid gender in inequalities and redefine womanhood in African society. These are the references. Now we can ask me question.
I think how does societal perceptions of parenthood influence individual experiences and expectations within familial dynamics?
Societal perception of parenthood influence individual experiences and expectations within familial dynamics uh, that uh, in society there are many beliefs and rules that girl child, and there are very much very much different behavior with the genders and so so What lessons or insights can be gleaned about motherhood from the joys of motherhood? From the joys of motherhood, we can get the idea that how, what the role does motherhood play in the life of a woman, and what are the sacrifices, and what role does the society play in the motherhood, and how these societal expectations and familial expectations are playing a role in motherhood, and how a female are being struggled by the society.
Okay, so feedback. Many of you put arguments, also question or arguments also in your some of the slides. So that is good. And when you put the negative, for example, first one Hina has put this that how this Yoruba culture is getting reflected. At the same time, you can also question why that happens. So what is the symbolic significance of using a particular culture into the narrative? What is the writer trying to do? And if you can find a parallel with our societies, India, then that also can be presented here. You will see many of the things that there are many similarities that you can find, like marriages, children, boy child. So several aspects are there, wherein even the Indian cultures, Indian societies are also connected with this ideas of motherhood and a kind of positive way the construction of motherhood is being done even in Indian society. So that parallel you can bring when you talk about the African things. In Gopi's presentation, you talk about the dance of forest. Good gestural articles were cited, but there was no index cited. So it then it becomes very difficult to see whether really things might be taken from these articles or only listed. So that's why index is necessary to prove that you have referred to the article and taken some idea from the article. Otherwise, just putting a list means that you might have referred to bibliographic record and copy pasted or just selected the record only. Ghanshyam also referred to good articles, and we get one good example to see in there about quality article. Can we try to look at it? I think let me share this. This article was written symbolic characters and class struggles. So in this article, you will see here that article history is here. This is a very good idea. It means that editorial team is working very hard and trying to do so. When was the article submitted? How many times revisions were given by the editors to the writers? This revision means again and again, editors are sending their article and telling that something needs to be changed. Revisions are required. So 6 revisions have now, though in this case everything happened in a short span of time, September to December. In many other better qualitative journals, it may take 2 to 3 years in this process. 2 to 3 years it takes in publishing one good article in good journal, whether it be called Scopus Index Journal or Web of Science kind of journal. Even with this good practice, we see that it is not indexed in scopus or web of science. Its indexing is there in dimensions, in views follower, cross roads are some of the well-known catalogs where terminal index is there, but still not in web of science, not in scopus. So even if it is good practice, still it doesn't remain a highly qualitative journal in the article. So that way you refer to the qualitative, but this practice is very significant and very important also. So you can say that when you submit your definition, how many revisions are required and how many times it will be suggested. So one should not get tired if the revisions are given and not get frustrated also. If you want to be ready for research writing, then the patterns for long duration of time and minor corrections again and again are given, and you should be ready mentally for this thing. That is what we get as an example from this also. In Drashti's presentation on feminist, Bhavyata on eco-criticism, and Avni on parenthood, motherhood, even Anjali also talked about that. The last one, Aarti also. So even in all this case, there are you have to refer again to the seminal works. Feminism or black women. When we talk about, you have to also refer what is the difference between feminism and womenism. Black women talk about womenism. So what is the difference? Why that idea was necessary? Why when you talk about black women, feminism was not enough? So you have to go to feminism thing, and so that needs to be referred to in our chapter collection, which we have subscribed also nowadays. You get a good collection of articles which you can download also. Earlier, we were only able to tell you that read online and see if it is possible to refer. There were paid ones, so we are not able to access. But now everything is open. The subscription is paid by the university. So you should take maximum advantage of this. So when I search motherhood as patriarchal construct, can we say that motherhood is a patriarchal construct? So then very interesting articles were suggested. And they are quite interestingly worth referring to. This will know, directions in motherhood studies. So there is the entire discipline of motherhood studies. So various ways how traditional way motherhood idea is constructed, how religion normally supports that traditional way of looking at motherhood, wherein they try to add the idea of divinity and lots of other things in the motherhood. Then there is Western concept which tries to liberate the women from lots of patriarchal construction that has gone around motherhood and tries to give a choice to the women whether they want to be mother or not. The traditional or religious construction always try to say that if one is not a mother or is not able to bear children, is considered as a bad woman. So that notion needs to be broken also somehow. And Western narrative have done that you and then when people see that, they try to see that Western notion is trying to say that no women should be a mother. It is an extreme way of understanding. It is not so. It is giving choice, human choice, whether they want to be or if they make a choice they don't want to be, then those women cannot be considered, should not be considered as bad women, ill omens around those things. We have lots of karma where those women are unwanted women. And so how one can come out from there? For that purpose, normally these narratives are given. The construction of motherhood, where you will see the reference to the Christian idea here. Mothering and motherhood also is an interesting article. And political life of black motherhood also. So there are very interesting way to enter into this idea of motherhood, which can be seen also in various ways. Also, polygamy is an interesting idea which can be referred to here. How we see in India that when this triple talaq or Muslim law code and uniform civil code UCC is being talked about nowadays. Hindu code bill when Ambedkar brought in after India's independence, it helped women, Hindu women, to be free from polygamy. Earlier, everything was practiced everywhere. Now, Hindu women are free. Legally, it is not good, but for Muslims, it is allowed. Muslim men can marry 4 times. So, there is that polygamy and kind of thing. So, there are very interesting debates going on around how polygamy is even allowed today, maybe just legally also, if you belong to a particular religion. And if you belong to another religion, it is not allowed. So, interesting debates are there which can be brought in and connected when you discuss the things also. Okay, so with this we end this session here.